Hi, I'm Laurie Blakeman. I'm the House Leader for the third party. I'm also the critic for the Environment and SRD, Justice and Solicitor General, municipalities, culture, and I'm missing one, I apologize. I am so looking forward to this session. Nice, easy, slow pitches right across the plate. So I'm expecting that this will be a very interesting time for those of us that get to sit in the House, and I hope it's an interesting time for you. What's got my gander up and where I want to start concentrating right off the bat is municipalities. I think it's pretty clear we have a situation where, along with the unions and working people in the province, the government's decided that it's going to pick a fight with the municipalities. And you know, considering that the municipalities have picked up most of the programming, or a lot of the programming that the provincial government used to deliver without any extra money, I might add, and they won't allow the municipalities any additional revenue stream, I think that's a nice, easy pitch right across home plate to me to hit it out of the park. There's a lot of work that can be done there. And I think the second point that is really critical for everybody in the province is environment and SRD on a couple of points. One, because we've been postponed repeatedly by the Minister of Environment that there were these wonderful studies, committees, strategies, reports, etc. coming, and that would lead to a whole new world. And we'd like to see them now, and we'd like to see the action that goes with that. Thinking we're not going to see anything, but there we go. And as well, the water consultation is going on right now, and I think that's a critical piece of what we really need to be following up on in this province. But there's so many other things that I could be working on that it's a wonderful opportunity for me as an opposition member.
Laurie, can I jump in? I just want to ask you a quick question about, Minister Hancock said this morning that they're going to be reorganizing basically the supply the debates, the budget estimate debates. They're going to be taking them out of the House and doing them in the legislative policy committees. Can you give me a sense of what your reaction to that is? Like, how if at all, is that going to impact your ability to do your job?
You know, I am one of the people that pushed for this because the previous way of doing budget debates, not to put too fine a word on it, sucked. They got us next to no information, and it was 3 hours of our time very badly spent. So we had been pushing to have the division of time, not just 3 hours for every ministry, but to look at a different way of dividing it up, more like a certain percentage of the budget gives us more time with it. So we are looking at putting different ministries into different time slots. So it's quite likely, for example, that you would see 2 3-hour time slots spent on healthcare, for example, or 2, 3, in other words, 6 hours of debate on healthcare, human services, and we're negotiating the rest of that. The standing orders that appear in your order paper, I'm not totally over the moon about, and I will be pushing back. I know the government's been in place for 41 years here, but they still should have some understanding of the legislative process, and you really cannot expect members of the opposition parties to be able to come up with additional time in the morning. I know that's a slow time for government members, God bless them, but it's not for us. So in the standing orders, they do propose an 8 to 12 time slot for debate, and that would be a big no button for the opposition members. So we've gone over some of this stuff, but it's still coming out in the standing orders for debate. Did that answer your question?
So that yes, partly, but my next question was that there does seem to be a lot of changes in times, time limits for speaking, time limits for like when the debates are actually going to take place, that kind of thing. So you're basically saying your one concern about all these changes in the standing orders this morning is that they were proposed this 9 to noon debate period. You're not in favor of that?
That was a big one that I would even say pushback. It just had a flat out no. It's not possible for us to do that just given our working schedules on this side. There's some other things we'll see how it works. They want to reduce, we had a combined 10 for me, 10 for the minister. You could combine it and go back and forth inside of that if everybody played nice. If you didn't play nice, then I would take 10 minutes and give you 10 minutes of questions. You, the minister, would take 10 minutes to answer it all. They want to cut that back after the first go-round. They want to cut it back to 5 and 5. Okay, might be more interesting. more people might get a question up. We'll see how that works. I'm willing to work along with that. I'm not comfortable with sending the final decision to the legislative policy committees on how the final calendar would look. I cannot imagine, well, tell me all, how successful do you think committees of 18 will be in deciding on a time schedule? Not very. So I'm not keen on that decision. I know they're trying to give them something to do, but not that. So there's a couple of places where I would be pushing back.
Thanks, Laurie.
Do you think it's going to be a long session, short session? What's your take on how long we'll be here for?
You know, somebody said to me this morning, it looks like they are not hedging their bets, but they've really got a look a little bit over here, will we do something over here? They've really laid it open for them to go one of two ways. They could, as I've explained to some of you, shut it down on the second Thursday, on the 14th of March. By then they would have given themselves interim supply, and if they gave themselves enough interim supply and enough of a date, they could be out of there until the fall. They really could. So maybe they are leaving it open to see, you know, give themselves a couple of test days, and if it's a little scorching hot over there, they might decide to just cool off over the spring and summer and come back in the fall. They could do that. Aside from that, I'm not seeing any big important bills. It's very administrative, very low key, not much important, but you know, these guys have surprised us with big bombs before. And especially if we're having trouble with labor, I would be, well, they want to fight, that'd be it. If they're going to bring in some sort of no one has a right to strike or not agree with the Minister of Education. And you know, this government is just picking fights with people. They pick fights with the municipalities, they pick fights with the environment, they pick fights with the energy industry, they pick fights with the unions. I mean, all they want to do is fight. And I think people really want to see more of them, to see them do more planning and implementation of things. So, that answer your question?
Yes.